Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Saw X, Saw 10, and I saw Saw X. Did it. But anyways, this movie is directed by Kevin Gruder, and he was the editor for all of the Saw movies except for the ninth one, Spiral, from the Book of Saw. So he edited all of these movies. He also directed 6 and 7. And he returned for this one, and this movie is the most entertaining Saw movie I've seen in a while. And as much as I can enjoy 6 and 7, like, ironically, like, those ones are really funny to me, as well as 4, even though Kevin Gruder didn't direct 4. This one, as far as, like, ironic enjoyment, I found myself to be the most entertained by, and this one has kind of a weird approach. It makes Jigsaw, John Kramer, the villain of all these previous films, played by Tobin Bell. He's the main character in this movie, which is very interesting, and while some might find that distracting, for me, I say that's a positive, because he was always the best part of those previous movies. Like, he carries this series. I want to see him. And you get to see him in a Saw movie that is 2 hours long for no reason. And that's probably my biggest criticism with this movie. It's 2 hours long. It's the longest Saw movie out of any of them. And easily it could have been like 15 to 20 minutes shorter. And I would have been fine with that, because does this movie need to be 2 hours long? Not really. There are parts of this movie that are really funny, some really great moments, really bad dialogue that I can laugh at, and this movie just delivers on what I would want out of the franchise. And it's what I wanted Spiral from the Book of Saw, the previous Saw movie, which is the only Saw movie at this point that I do not own, and I don't plan on ever buying that, because for me that's the worst one. And it's just the most boring, if anyone's curious as to why I don't like it. Even though I have reviewed it, it's just not a good movie. I enjoyed the traps in this movie. I thought that they were really fun, and the trap that you see on the cover is the first trap in the entire film, and it happens pretty early on. Like, not in the opening scene, but I'm not going to say what actually happens or when it happens, because I don't want to spoil anything, but when it happens, it's pretty funny. And I like laughing at the traps. I find them to be hilarious, and I enjoy characters being stupid, and I enjoy the absurdity of how far these traps go, and things like that is what I enjoy. And there were also some nice practical effects in the trap scenes, and that stuff I did like, and I did kind of find it funny that throughout the entire series this is a thing, but for some reason in a lot of these Saw movies, except for maybe the first one where that was the case, there's like a time limit. Like, you have 3 minutes to get out of this trap. In this movie it's always like 3 minutes or something, maybe a bit less or more depending on what the trap actually is. There are points where characters don't make it, not because they didn't want to, like, try to escape, but rather they just ran out of time and they get killed as a result. And all it would really take for them to make it out of the trap would be just an extra 10 seconds, and they would make it. Like, they missed it by that much. Very unfortunate. You just gotta get right into it, get to work, and then you'll be fine. Oh, and also in this movie we learned that people are always watching you. I guess that's always a thing in these Saw movies, but if you do make the choice to live and you get out of the trap, then apparently someone's gonna get a first aid kit for you or take you to the hospital, which I found to be kind of funny. And also something that you're gonna have to accept in this movie is that this might be a little confusing for people who don't know this, but apparently this movie is taking place in between Saw 1 and Saw 2. So it's technically the second film, despite being the 10th installment. Like, it's not going forward, it's, I guess, in a way, going forward and backwards. More backwards than forwards. if that makes sense. And there are points in this movie where I was like, this doesn't feel like it's like the mid 2000s or whenever this is supposed to be taking place. This feels weirdly modern. There's a point where you can clearly see that there's like a 4K TV at one point. I'm like, we didn't have 4K TVs. I'm sorry. And also, another thing you're going to have to accept is like, despite this movie taking place before Saw 2, characters look much older than they do in this movie than they do in the other Saw movies. Like, that's also something you're going to have to accept. And for me, that was a little distracting. But if you can get along with that, then it's still entertaining. It doesn't make the movie boring as a result, which I'm not really here for anything like great. I just want Tobin Bell, and I want fun traps, and maybe a funny twist. Like, that's all you're really asking for. That's all the fans want, and it delivers. Well, maybe not like the best when it comes to the twist, but it's still funny. I think it's funny. Even if there are some parts that are kind of unnecessary, like the flashbacks that were kind of unnecessary during the twist. So, like, we just saw information being presented to us like 15 minutes ago. Like, why are we being told this again? And also, just again to the plot, not to describe it, but just to mention it briefly. I think it's a pretty funny plot, honestly. And it's goes in directions in ways that I would like, and I know I keep repeating myself over and over again, but it just delivers on what you would want. It's bloody, it's goofy, it's over the top, and it has Tobin Bell. He's the main character this time around. What more do you want? Like, at this point, what more do you want out of this franchise? Just creative traps and more Tobin Bell. That's all I want. I got it, and I'm happy. So, not exactly the best movie to recommend if you're looking for a movie to enjoy unironically, because I don't really find this movie scary. I did get, like, kind of surprised at some of the gore moments. Like, that stuff was effective, and it wasn't like CG blood. It didn't take me out of the movie, or at least it didn't look like CG blood. I wasn't taken out of it from the blood effects or any of the gore effects looking fake, for the most part. There was like an explosion that didn't look all too real, but that was about it. Also, completely illogical. They just, whenever someone dies in any of the traps, they just say they didn't have the will to live, even though they would have made it if they had just a teensy bit more time, like I said earlier. But that's just something you're gonna have to go along with, because it's a dumb, stupid horror movie that I can laugh at and have fun with. Make it shorter next time, please. There's no reason it needs to be 2 hours. Or if you are going to make it 2 hours, have more traps sprinkled throughout the film. I would love that. That would be great. And another thing, one last thing to mention, I almost forgot. This movie doesn't really focus on the cops angle of the story, because in pretty much all of the other Saw movies, it's traps and cops, where, like, the original Saw film was basically a mixture between Seven and Cube, and Seven is the detective angle and Cube is the trap angle, and this one is just all traps. So that stuff I'm happy with. Takes out a lot of filler, even if there's a little bit of filler in this movie. But it's still funny, still entertaining. So check this movie out if you like laughing at these movies, and if you want to be just entertained, like just nice, simple entertainment. Or if you find these movies funny like I do, except for the original, like that's the only one I enjoy unironically. That one I can take seriously for the most part, but the rest of them, it's kind of hit or miss, laughing at it, kind of enjoying it, like unironically, or just being bored. So if you don't really want to watch a gory Saw movie, just watch the first one. The rest of them, they go all out, basically. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Saw X or Saw 10, lots of different puns you can make about this movie. just with its title. Anyways, whatever you're calling it, I'll just say Saw 10. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you thought of Saw X or Saw 10, whatever you want to call it, down below. And my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Cinderella Man. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.